Hi there, and welcome to an AgilePoint platform overview. Over the next 10 minutes, we'll give you a sense of the design tools and building blocks available within the AgilePoint platform to compose applications and business processes, how we can measure the effectiveness of those processes as well as business results using AgilePoint's Analytics Center, and run a representative example of an AgilePoint application. Okay, so with that, let's walk through a few of the key pillars of application design. Our first core pillar is data entity, which is an optional business user-friendly data store. So as you can see here, I have a table comprised of a number of columns, and if I'd like to add another column manually, I would simply select Add Field, select the data type that most closely matches my requirement, and provide basic configuration options. Now beyond the manual option, I can also create tables using generative AI, or simply upload a spreadsheet and have the table created on my behalf. Now, as you might expect, I can create complex relationships between tables and visualize them through an entity relationship diagram, strong design time as well as runtime permissioning, with an associations table to help me perform impact analysis. In other words, if this table changes, which applications might be impacted. From there, we're going to move to core pillar number 2, which is the process builder. Now here, 20 years of innovation have yielded a process platform that supports more than 15 different patterns, which means in practice that I can model any business requirement using the drag and drop tooling. To compose the application, I have more than 1,200 reusable and easily configurable building blocks. And what's open here are eForms. In other words, whenever I need a human to participate as a part of an application. Now we have lots of purpose-built task types to allocate work within the agency, as well as allows for secure external participation by suppliers, citizens, or regulators. And behind the plus icon, I have more than 120 abstracted integrations into leading enterprise systems, both cloud as well as on-prem. So scrolling through the list, you're going to see relational databases, both cloud and on-prem, various content repositories and robotic process automation solutions, office productivity, AI solutions, as well as leaders in categories like CRM or ERP. So think of Salesforce, NetSuite, and SAP. Now to give you a sense of how this would work, I'm going to open up Salesforce, a system just about everyone is familiar with, and it's very representative of the way that AgilePoint approaches integration. More than 25 actions within Salesforce alone, removing any need for deep or expert skill sets in order to leverage this as a part of an application. So as an example, if I wanted to create a record, I would drag that action onto my design canvas and follow AgilePoint's straightforward wizard until I've reached my desired behavior. So first, I would select how I'm connecting to Salesforce. There's a scope of various objects that I can work with. As you're seeing here, I'm selecting a custom object in Salesforce as identified by __C. Now here, it's a very straightforward visual mapping. On the left-hand side, I have harmonized data coming from multiple different sources. And on the right-hand side is a real-time exploration of the schema of my external system, in this case, Salesforce. So all I'd have to do is find the fields that are like for like. So as an example, I can map email to email. And this green line here is telling me this is a data type match. Now, obviously, I could map additional fields, but in the interest of keeping this video short, we'll just map a single field. And from a response perspective, whenever I create a record in Salesforce, it's going to give me an ID, which I can store in a temporary AgilePoint process variable. Next, that brings us to core pillar number 4, AgilePoint's responsive interface builder. So here you're seeing an HTML5 and jQuery responsive interface that I build once and use on any device or any orientation. And as you can see, across the left, I have more than 75 visual building blocks to compose my interface. Things like basic controls, text boxes, drop-down lists, radio buttons, and file attachments. And as I move over under the advanced controls, they become a little more use case or data type specific. So as an example, is this phone number dialed locally or internationally? Email, which will validate for a username at domain.com format, credit card, social security, and the list goes on. And then finally, we've also OEM'd a number of Telerik controls, which provide advanced functionality. So as you can see here, I have a fully built out interface with the option to apply business logic at multiple different levels. Here you're seeing a field level rule, I also have the option for form level rules, where the big difference being I have a number of events which can trigger various rules. To actually implement my process logic, as you can see here, I have all of the various fields, so that when the overall status is equal to either a hard-coded value or a variable, I have a number of actions that can be taken, making my form dynamic by showing and hiding controls, executing scripts, methods, showing messages or setting field values, as well as triggering lookups. Now, in the event that I have a more demanding requirement, I could simply add multiple rules or chain them together. Next, we have core pillar number 5, which is AgilePoint's landing page builder, and brings together all of the different elements from across the platform to a single interface. So as an example, here you can see across the top, I have menus, I have a button to launch an application, reports, as well as other sorts of media. And to build out my form, as you can see here, I have more than 20 different widgets. A button, an eForm, which essentially means I have an unlimited number of options, where I can simply design something in AgilePoint's eForms and host it on a landing page. The ability to bring in my task list, raw HTML, various media, card, layout options, as well as embed reports. Now you're going to see more on this when I run an application, but for now, in the interest of time, let's move on to AgilePoint's next core pillar, analytics. We have a very comprehensive and easy to use reporting and analytics solution with lots of out-of-the-box reports around process performance, bottlenecks, as well as training opportunities. In other words, who is or is not using AgilePoint. Lots of out-of-the-box reports around systems that have been integrated, as well as security and compliance. And of course, I can build my own custom reports. So here, I'm highlighting a few different presentation styles, the fact that each of these reports are interactive and support drill down, KPIs for management, as well as pure dashboards. And bear in mind that this doesn't need to be data purely processed by AgilePoint. I can easily join through configuration data from across the agency and display it here in a report. So as a last step, let's walk through the application that we've just shown in design mode. So here's our landing page. As you saw earlier, there's a button to launch my application, and the use case for today is a tax audit application. So here you're seeing our responsive interface. Now in most scenarios, I might have a combination of user input fields as well as data lookups, but in this particular case, the customer was doing a lot in terms of Excel, did not want to totally change the way they were working, so they've asked us, can AgilePoint ingest an attached Excel sheet, parse that sheet, and pre-populate the form? So as this is loading, we're going to walk through the various sections of our form, and as we can see, everything has been fully populated, which means we can now kick off the process. Now for the purposes of this video, I'll be taking care of all tasks within this application. So as a reviewer, I've just received an email telling me I have something new to work on. It's exposing all of the relevant business context, as well as links to directly open up the task or to track our process. But there are ways to interact with AgilePoint applications without ever signing in to AgilePoint at all. As you can see here, I have an add-in for Outlook that works just as well in the mobile experience, where I can click a button to action my task without logging in to AgilePoint's portal. Now fortunately, AgilePoint does provide Workcenter, which is sort of home base as a user of the platform, and gives me complete visibility into all pending tasks with various means to prioritize those work items. I've planned out my day and pinned important processes here to my home screen so that I can follow along as they execute. Now that being said, I can always drill into a detailed view of my tasks, and as you can see here, search for them by name. Different views might be available depending on who I am in an organization. So as an example, I can easily monitor the tasks of my team, department, or group. But let's go ahead and open up the task that's just been allocated to us. Before we do that, I want to open up AgilePoint's real-time process tracker, which provides a visual audit trail for a running application. And as you can see here, the check marks indicate these tasks have been completed. So we've kicked off our workflow. Behind the scenes, collaboration has been brought in as a part of this process. So AgilePoint has created a Microsoft Teams chat thread, invited all of my colleagues to collaborate, and the spinning wheel tells me that this is the currently active step. So let's go in and open up that pending task, and I'm going to assume the role of a reviewer. So here at this point, everything submitted previously has been marked read-only, so I can simply weigh in and decide how this workflow goes forward. Skipping over to the final tab towards the bottom, you're going to see a link for the conversation thread that was created as a part of this application so that my colleagues can discuss and decide how best to move this process forward. Moving back, you can see here under supervisor decision, I have business logic, such that if I do anything other than approve, comments become mandatory, and if I were to approve this, that mandatory flag will go away. So let's go back to our process tracker. We're going to see the process continue to light up. Next, we have a stage where a document is being generated. We're taking the data from the application, merging it into a template, and then sending that for digital signature by DocuSign. Okay, so that DocuSign task has just been completed. So if I move over to my inbox, I'll see that waiting for me. So what you're going to see here is a rather straightforward tabular style document, but think about things like purchase orders, bills of lading, onboarding agreements as an example. All examples of documents that can be dynamically generated by AgilePoint. Okay, so with that, that was a very quick tour around the AgilePoint platform. I hope that that now gives you a better understanding of how to compose solutions using the AgilePoint platform, the end user experience, and of course, the reporting and analytics capabilities. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.